Gettysburg is a hard topic to talk about. The Civil War is, in general. And I was super stressed about doing this because the effects of this war are still being felt. It was not that long ago. It won our Haunted History Talk by a landslide, though. And it's one of the most interesting battles that ever happened in America. I have visited Gettysburg, and I can tell you just the air as you walk on these fields that at one point in history were soaked with blood. It's heavy. It's a heavy experience. The Civil War needs to be addressed. There's no getting around it. And that makes people very uncomfortable. Today, what we're going to do is actually just focus on the battle itself and the ghost stories. But you need to acknowledge that elephant in the room, introduce it. Let the ghost of this battlefield tell you this story on today's History Talk. Before introducing any of the main players, let me give you a basic timeline of how Gettysburg worked. The battle itself was 3 days long. It is not the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. That statistic belongs to Antietam. The battle started on July 1st, 1863, and finished on July 3rd. The reason this battle is considered to be so important is because this was the turning point for the North. Because at that point, the South was kind of kicking some butt. As for the land itself, it was mostly farmland. Fields belonging to farmers and homeowners. Some of their houses are still on the property. I'm going to try not to use any words that will trip up TikTok's audio censors. So for the South, you had about 75,000 soldiers. For the North, 90,000 or more. Robert E. Lee is trying to invade the North. But it's Lieutenant Marcellus Jones of the Union that fires the first shot. Here's how we're going to do this. Each day will have its own videos, so 3 videos on each day. Now starting with day 1. Southern leaders are sending troops to engage Brigadier General John Buford. This is at McPherson Ridge. And I think if you go to the park, this is like one of the first stops on the tour when you're driving. Almost immediately, Major General John F. Reynolds gets shot. This is about to kick stuff into high gear. Robert E. Lee's troops are now approaching. By this point, the Union troops are already running the heck away, which is giving the Confederacy some confidence. Please don't tag that word, TikTok. I will lose my mind. Hoping to ride the momentum, Robert E. Lee orders his troops to attack at Cemetery Hill. His generals want to wait, though. And that was the wrong decision because what happens is the rest of the Union that are going to fight in this battle are given time to show up. We're now heading into day 2. Day 2. And ladies, if you thought I was thirsty over Charles Lightoller in my Titanic series, let me introduce you to the new love of your life, Joshua Chamberlain. On day 2, this man is getting me just thinking about it. Pulled one of the best maneuvers during this whole battle. A lot of stuff happens on day 2, but since I'm abbreviating this, I want to give you the most important. Little Round Top. Union forces were kind of recovering from their initial setbacks. He's a colonel. This man from Maine found himself with his other Maine friends all the way at the end of the Union line. But in a pure Obi-Wan Kenobi move, he knew he needed the high ground. They had little to no ammo. And as this Confederate group tried to run up the hill, they charged down with little ammunition and a great hoax and took them prisoner. The Confederates had no idea that they could have just completely overtaken them. He just basically instituted a bayonet charge against people who could have taken him out. He kept the high ground and was awarded for his bravery. I know we skipped over the Devil's Den and the Slaughterhouse. I promise I will get to those in the more haunted part of this. But let's talk Pickett's charge. Lee's efforts to take out the Union, sidelines had failed completely. But the order was still in place to charge the middle. So under the direction of George Pickett of Virginia, they kept trying to bombard the center lines of the Union soldiers with cannon fire, but for some reason this just did not affect them that much. And so completely surrounded and still under orders, Pickett and his men from Virginia marched right into the mouth of hell. And you can picture this. Men walking out of this field, charging a few feet, and then dropping one by one because they're being annihilated. Pickett's division suffered over 2,500 casualties. He was guilt-ridden over this order and never really forgave Lee for ordering the charge. At the end, Lee told him to ready his division for another attack, to which he said, "General, I have no division." The historical significance of Gettysburg is that it turned the war into the favor of the North. It was a bad loss for Lee. And my God, the numbers of dead. 11,000 dead, 29,000 wounded, and even more missing. Some of those people probably dead, or at least running the hell out of there like I would have. There was also a civilian that was killed. But let's talk about some of the ghost stories, and that should finish up this series. Gettysburg is known for its very supernatural, battle-filled stories. Sometimes you can hear cannon fire at night. Gettysburg police even get so many disturbance calls that sometimes they call it Code 1863, meaning it's just a supernatural thing. And from everything I've read, most residents don't seem to mind so much. Like, they're just like, yep, oh, that's cannon fire, that's our ghost. No. People say the ghosts seem to just be doing what they did all those years ago. We're going to talk the most famous ghost story of Gettysburg right now. That's the death of civilian Jenny Wade. I'm also going to talk about the rocks here shortly, but let's focus on Jenny first. Jenny had taken shelter on the battlefield in a cabin with her sister because her sister had just given birth. And they were trying to, stay calm, make food. But a bullet flew through the house and killed her instantly. Her family had to hide in the house's cellar with her body until the battle was over so that they could bury her. In her pocket, they found a letter written to a Jack Skelly. It was believed they were engaged, but unbeknownst to her, Skelly had already died. In a weird coincidence, Jack had given a letter to his friend Wesley Culp, a soldier, who he knew would be fighting in Gettysburg. The letter was for Jenny, but it never got delivered because Culp ended up dying in Gettysburg. That sucks. Jenny's ghost is said to roam the battlefield. Maybe she's looking for that letter. With a name like Devil's Den and the Slaughterhouse, how could this place not be haunted? I didn't get into this part of the battle too much, but a lot of people died in this rock formation behind me. I found some amazing older photos of it, but then I got to looking, and yeah, there were definitely dead bodies in those photos. So no, we're not going to show those. You can Google at your own risk. When you try to take a picture here, it's often said cameras will glitch. I personally did not have that issue when I went here and took pictures. There are also apparently a lot of EVPs captured around here because the deaths here were very brutal. And for those of you who aren't addicted to ghost adventures like I am, EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon, meaning it's believed to be a spirit captured on recording. I found a whole bunch of clips on YouTube. Was going to share some here. I haven't found any that I think are remotely legitimate. Sorry, doesn't mean I don't believe that it's possible, just there's a lot of fakers out there. But you can take a ghost tour of the battlefield. I guess the best way to finish up Gettysburg here would be, did I have any paranormal experiences? No, not in the sense that you're probably hoping for. But you can feel the heaviness in the air. As soon as you walk on those grounds, you can feel the sadness. It's just such a waste of human life. War always is. I felt the same way when I walked on a battlefield in World War I. Humans just have this capacity to be so terrible to one another. And that sadness permeates. It's in the air, it's in the town. You can feel that. And I urge you not to go for the ghost. Just go to feel that, to remind yourself how awful we as human beings can be to one another. The saddest thing I felt, more than anything, more than anywhere else, was right here. It's the cemetery. Yes, this is where Lincoln gave his address. But look at this. These were somebody's children. Someone was waiting on them to come home, and we don't know their names.